They broadcast every one. That was the thing people forget. When they talk about the Vorathi Sanctity decree now, they talk about the numbers. 22,400 dead, 7 stations, 14 consecration hulks, 14 days. They talk about the response. They talk about what rose from Jupiter's dark, but they forget that the Vorathi broadcast it. Every sanctity compliance confirmation, on open galactic frequency, as each station went silent. They wanted the galaxy to know. They wanted us to know. They filed SCC-001 through SCC-227-400 on their own sacred channel, a channel consecrated under the Vorathi Doctrinal Covenant for the transmission of holy declarations. And they read the confirmations out in sequence, station by station, hull by hull, as if the killing was liturgy. I was 31 years old when it happened. A junior intelligence analyst attached to the Deep Range Listening Division, working third shift on INS Heron's Reach. The stations they hit were not ours. They were the outer corridor array, civilian research posts, no weapons, no armor, just dishes and antennae, and 22,400 people who had spent their careers listening to the universe. When the first SCC came through on the open channel, I remember thinking it was a clerical error. No species files compliance confirmations on an open sacred frequency. That is not what sacred frequencies are for. SCC-001 through SCC-3 114. Listening station Vale Soren 1, silenced on day 1. I stayed at my station through the end of my shift and through the next one. I had the channel open the entire time. My supervisor told me to log it and go home. I logged it. I did not go home. By day 4, the Vorathi had declared the outer corridor consecrated void under Doctrinal Provision 9 Reth, which held that any space claimed by a sanctity decree was retroactively sacred, and any non-Vorathi presence within it, an act of defilement requiring correction. This was not a military claim, it was a theological one. We had defiled their void by listening to the sky. SCC 33115 through SCC 95441. Listening station Vale Soren 2 through 4, days 2 through 7. I built the archive file during the silences between broadcasts. I had a secondary terminal I was not supposed to use for personal work. I used it anyway. Every SCC filed, cross-referenced with the station duty rosters I pulled from division records. Names against numbers. 22,400 of them, one entry at a time. The archive was not official. My division director did not authorize it. No one asked me to build it. I built it because someone had to hold the names against the numbers, and I was the one sitting there, and because the Vorathi were broadcasting the numbers on a sacred channel, and I wanted to make sure the names outlasted the broadcast. SCC 9442 through SCC 114830, stations 5 and 6, days 8 through 12. On day 13, the Vorathi sent a formal diplomatic communique to the Earth Interim Council. It thanked the Council for its silence during the sanctity compliance period and expressed the Vorathi Penitence's hope that humanity would find spiritual clarity in its loss. The Council issued no response. I was not in the room. I have been told that the session lasted 47 minutes, and that very little was said aloud, and that what was decided was not written down. SCC 14831 through SCC 22400, Station 7, Day 14. What was decided was Jupiter. Not immediately. Nothing about what followed was immediate. That is the other thing people do not understand about what we did. They think it was rage, that we rose up, that we shouted, that we struck while the grief was hot enough to feel like something. It was not rage. Rage is for people who have no plan. What we had was 31 years, and Jupiter's shadow, and the cold certainty that if you are patient enough, if you are quiet enough, if you are willing to go dark long enough, you can build something in the dark that no one can see coming until it is already there. The Abyssal Accord assembled in the crushed dark behind Jupiter's magnetosphere, where no Vorathi sensor sweep had ever bothered to look, because nothing useful lived at 4 atmospheres of radiation pressure, and no sane fleet would assemble there because the conditions would kill most standard hull configurations. Our engineers spent 3 years redesigning the hull configurations. Then they spent 28 years building 880 warships, running on minimum emission protocols, no external communication, no response to hails, no presence on any frequency the Vorathi monitored. From the outside, from the Vorathi's perspective, humanity had accepted the Sanctity decree. We had gone quiet. We had found, as they put it, spiritual clarity. I was reassigned 11 times in those 31 years. I carried the archive file through every reassignment. It lived on a personal drive I kept in my left breast pocket. I updated it when new information came in, names that the original duty rosters had missed, researchers who had been on the stations as contractors and fell through the administrative gap, a pair of children who had been living with a parent on Vale Soren 3 and were not formally listed in any division record. I found the children's names in a school transfer application that had been filed 2 weeks before the decree. I added them to the archive. SCC 22399 and SCC 22400 were filed by the Vorathi as a single unit confirmation, 2 subunit non-sapients, corrected as auxiliary defilement. I gave them their own lines. On the 31st anniversary of the final broadcast, the Abyssal Accord rose out of Jupiter's shadow. I was aboard INS Heron's Reach, a different ship than the one I'd served on as a junior analyst. Same name, twice the tonnage. My post was the signals suite. I had spent the transit reading the archive, not because I needed to, I knew every name in it, but because it seemed like the right thing to do on the way there. 31 years of quiet, and then the last 18 hours of it, sitting in the signals suite reading 22,400 names, while 880 warships ran dark through the outer corridor, toward Vorathi space. The Vorathi had 14 consecration hulks spread across the consecrated void, the same hulks that had done the work 31 years prior, now serving as ceremonial anchors for their doctrinal boundary. They also had 31 supporting installations along the corridor belt, administrative and relay nodes for the Penitence's outer reach mission work. We had a column assigned to each installation, and 2 columns assigned to each consecration hulk. The columns launched simultaneously. There was no declaration, no ultimatum, no warning hail. The Vorathi's sacred frequency carried nothing but silence for 31 years, and it carried nothing but silence for the 11 minutes it took the Accord's lead columns to reach weapons range. The first consecration hulk went dark at 0614 standard. I opened the archive file at 0615 and queued SCC-001 through SCC 3114 against the Vorathi's doctrinal sacred frequency, the same channel they had used to broadcast the confirmations in the first place. I pressed transmit. 3,114 names, in the order the Vorathi had filed them, on the frequency they had consecrated for holy declarations. It took 11 minutes to broadcast. The second consecration hulk went dark during the transmission. I queued the next file. The columns worked through the morning in the way that a plan works when it has been 31 years in the building, without drama, without variance, without a single moment that did not go exactly as calculated. The Vorathi launched what defense elements they had. Our losses were 4 ships and their crews, 311 dead, and I will not minimize that cost by pretending the response was clean. It was not clean. It was thorough, which is a different thing. By 1400, 11 of the 14 consecration hulks were gone, and 26 of the 31 supporting installations had been dismantled. The Vorathi Penitence's high doctrinal conclave transmitted a formal appeal for ceasefire on 4 separate frequencies, including their own sacred channel, which was still carrying our broadcast. The Accord's command did not respond. There was no policy for responding. We had not built a response protocol because we had not built the Accord to negotiate. By 1741, the 14th consecration hulk went dark. At 1742, I transmitted the full archive. All 22,400 names, SCC 001 through SCC 22,400, with the station designations replaced by the actual names of the stations, and the unit confirmation numbers replaced by the names of the people. I ran it on the Vorathi sacred frequency at maximum broadcast power, and I set it to loop. It would take 7 hours to finish 1 full cycle. I set the loop to run for 31 cycles, 1 for each year we'd spent in Jupiter's dark. The Accord turned for home. I stayed at the signal suite and listened to the broadcast loop. It took a long time. I had nowhere else to be, and it seemed like the right thing to do, to sit with the names while they went out, the same way I had sat with them 31 years ago while they were being filed. They wanted the galaxy to know. Now it does.